Howdy dowdy bug bugs, welcome to my very first storytime video, which just so happens to be my first entry in my Transportation Tales mini-series. Now, everyone has memorable experiences, some good, others bad, and for me, these experiences have the unusual tendency to take place on public transport. I mean, it makes sense. I used to spend quite a lot of time going to and from uni, and by quite a lot, I mean in all my years at uni, I never once met someone who had to travel as much as me. It got to the point that some days I was spending more time on public transport than in class. That's how bad it was. Which, now saying out loud kinda makes it sound like I'm bragging. But that's not my intention. I just wanted to highlight that I spent a good chunk of time on public transport. And on top of that, because, in the nicest way possible, I didn't really live in that great of an area. So it shouldn't really come to anyone's surprise that I'd have a couple stories to tell. So this story actually took place on my very first day of orientation week, and for those unaware, it's pretty much the first week of uni, where they go over course outlines, show you around campus, force you to interact with people you'll never meet again, all that jazz. Now, I don't know about you, but I get super stressed when I have to go to new places. The very concept of having to go to uni all alone was incredibly daunting to me, and what made matters worse was the fact that I had never travelled so far before, and because I had to make several stops, it meant I had many opportunities to get lost. Now, for clarity's sake, not just for this video but future ones too, these stops typically involved a bus, a train, and then a second final bus, and for storytelling ease, we shall be going in chronological order. So, starting with the first bus ride, all I can say is, it was not the greatest. I mean, it wasn't by any means awful, but not having any data on my phone meant there wasn't much to do to fill in the void. Luckily, I still had some songs saved on my phone, albeit songs that I listened to when I was 13, so pretty much littered with Nightcore, Vocaloid, and anime openings. But it was nice to see what little old me liked. However, this nice nostalgic feeling was pretty short-lived, cause unfortunately for me, I didn't realize just how bad my motion sickness was. I knew I had motion sickness, but I never expected it to be that bad. And because I never knew it was that bad, mainly because I'd never travelled so far before, I didn't think to bring any gum. So yeah, I spent the rest of the bus ride trying not to vomit. Fun! Well, at least it taught me the hard way to always carry gum around, so there's that at least. The train ride, on the other hand, was a lot better because by sheer coincidence, two of my high school friends were waiting at the same station. So the fact I was no longer alone was a massive load off. As for what happened on the train, honestly, nothing really important to the story. We just talked about our holidays the whole way there. Afterwards, we had to walk from the train station to the next bus stop. And because we were all pretty bad at directions, we got a tad bit lost. But we did know that the bus stop was close because there were a couple of uni students giving away free drinks to promote some new soda. After a couple of minutes, we ended up asking one of them for directions, which we admittedly probably should have done a lot earlier, but we were all scared they'd be mean and say something like, "Ugh, first years who got lost on their first day, gag." But instead she was like, "Oh, we'll tell you if you take one." And I was so confused. They were free anyway. Was she getting paid based on how many she gave out? Was this some kind of new advertising technique I wasn't familiar with? Well, no, it was a joke. But for some reason, I didn't realize that until I actually started writing the script for this video. Yeah, sad, I know. Anyway, so we each took one. Unlike Scarlett and Jasmine, I put mine in my bag. That way, I could give it to someone else back home. And I know this sounds pathetic, but the reason is actually because it was a soda, and my tongue just can't handle the bubbles from carbonated drinks. Anyway, as promised, she gave us directions and, thankfully, we made it on time for the next bus. As for the second bus, well, it was pretty uneventful. We basically just continued our talk from the train. Other than that, there's not much else to say. Just know that we made it on time for our O-Week activities. So, the day proceeds, blah blah blah, and we finally get to the journey back. Now, unlike the trip there, this time I had to go all alone, because Scarlett and Jasmine had other matters to attend to. Now, the first bus and the train ride were as boring as you'd expect them to be. Nothing really notable. But oof, the next stop was wild. As I walked to the next stop, the bus had already begun leaving, and unfortunately for me, that meant I had to wait for another 30 minutes for the next one to come, which, sadly enough, I later found out was something that occurred quite frequently. Anyway, so I just had to wait in 38 degrees summer Australian heat, no biggie. 5 minutes later, an elderly lady came, who I'm going to refer to as Karen. How original, I know. She spent quite some time loudly yelling over the phone, apologising because apparently she was going to be late to her granddaughter's birthday party. Look, I didn't want to eavesdrop, but when someone is screaming at their phone 2 feet away from you, it kinda makes it hard not to. As you'd expect, more and more people came, including a pregnant lady who I shall be referring to as Peggy for the remainder of this video. Also, I should probably mention now that she had a baby stroller with her because it's pretty important to the story. So, more time passed, but for some reason the bus wasn't coming. It wasn't even a matter of being a couple minutes late. We were all waiting for another half an hour, meaning an entire hour had passed since I arrived. Standing in 38 degrees heat eventually caught up to me, and in sheer desperation I took out the can and tried the pineapple flavoured drink. And let me tell you, I immediately regretted it. It didn't even have to do anything with the bubbles. The drink was just so gosh darn bitter. Like, if you told me it was poisonous, I wouldn't even doubt you. I had to force myself to take small sips every handful of seconds just so I could actually stomach it. Then it came. The bus finally arrived after all that time. And you might be thinking, oh okay, guess that's the end of the story. Wrong, it's only just getting started. So Peggy tried going on first, but she was having issues getting the stroller on. Then, from the top of her lungs, Karen began screaming at her, telling her that she was taking way too long and she had places to be. To which Peggy replied, I'm not purposely trying to hold back everyone. But then Karen straight up began shoving her, and as you'd expect, Peggy wasn't having any of it and started pushing back. Not long after, the fight escalated, quickly involving heavier hits, scratching, and hair pulling. That kind of catty stuff. At the same time, because of the intensity of the fight, some of the people in front jumped back in shock. But in doing so, one of them bumped into me and I accidentally dropped the can, letting some of that tragic excuse of a soda spill everywhere. I mean, I say it went everywhere for dramatic purposes, but in reality it only soaked one shoe and a sock, which was far more of an inconvenience than an actual problem. But if you've ever had a wet sock, now imagine that, but also sticky. Yeah, not such a pleasant experience. Although I will admit it was probably my fault for standing in line with an open can. But in my defense, there weren't any bins around and there was no way I was going to put it back in my bag because I had my laptop in it. Now, honestly, at the time, the whole drink spilling thing didn't actually bother me, just because the fight was way more important, but it helps emphasize how chaotic the day was, so I decided, may as well put it in, Anyway, the fight, admittedly, lasted way longer than it should have, mainly because no one really knew how to deal with the situation. It wasn't exactly a standard type of fight. Like, from personal experience, scraps were often resolved through physical means, but you can't exactly tackle a pregnant lady or an elderly woman, Luckily, a couple squeezed in and they were able to separate them without hurting either of them. Then, with the fight finally over, Peggy tried going on once again, and this time she was able to get on without any problems, which kinda makes you think if Karen had just waited 5 seconds, none of this would have happened. But it is what it is. Then, when everyone else was on board, Karen actually had the sheer audacity to try and get on like nothing just happened. But the bus driver was not having it and began swearing at her, telling her that she was now banned and had to leave. And to make matters worse, the couple then opened the window so they too could yell at her, which she did not take too well. I was sitting at the back, so I didn't see what she did, but even back there I was able to hear a loud thud sound. Now, what happened? Well, apparently she hit the door hard enough to leave a very tiny crack. As for how, I don't even know. I was always under the assumption that bus doors were super sturdy, so I'm just as confused as you. Anyway, because of that tiny crack, we weren't allowed to leave, probably due to some kind of safety breach. So we were all forced to get off, and boy, were people fuming. Luckily, Karen dipped straight after hitting the door so the fight couldn't escalate. But even with her gone, everyone remained sour because we had to wait. Again. Thankfully, it was only like 15 minutes for a replacement bus. As for the bus ride itself, to be honest, it wasn't too bad. Sure, the heat, the soda-soaked sock, and the crying baby didn't exactly make the trip fun, but at the same time, I did get some pretty juicy gossip, so at least the ride was a little interesting. You see, the guy and the couple actually knew Karen from previous engagements, but I can't really explain it on YouTube, so unfortunately, I'll have to leave that up to your imagination. Anyway, from what he described, this was not her first rodeo. The dude listed like 5 different occasions where she started a fight over something completely inconsequential, so I guess Peggy was just the unlucky one this time round. Also, speaking of Peggy, I do want to mention now that she did assure everyone that she was fine. All the hits were above her shoulder, and according to her, they weren't very hard to begin with, so I'm hoping for her sake that she was telling the truth. I do wish I could give you an update, but for some strange reason, I never saw anyone involved again. Like, years passed, and I never once saw Peggy, Karen, the couple, or funnily enough, even the drink again. They all just vanished without a trace. And that's that. Pretty chaotic for a first day, right? Yeah, so if you did enjoy this video, can you do me a solid and like and subscribe? It'd mean a lot. Also, I'm super sorry if this video seemed choppy at parts. I had to make quite a lot of cuts so I didn't break any YouTube TOS. I mean, I probably could have used the original script even though it was more mature in nature, it's just, I'm new and I really don't want to get flagged early on, you know. Anyway, if you have any wild experiences on transport, let me know in the comment section, I'd love to hear them. With that said, until next time, don't let the bed bugs bite. Love you all, bye bye!